In today's training, I'm going to show you the 5 very specific methods I use to build rapport fast that ultimately leads to cutting the sales cycles in half to closing multiple 6-figure, 7-figure, even my biggest 8-figure career deal. Hey, I'm Mark Shan, founder of Bentley Consulting Group, in which we provide modern sales training and coaching for reps and teams so you can blow out your sales targets, earn $250,000 to $500K plus, and become the elite sales pro you've dreamed of. Now, prior to this, I was in corporate sales and sales leadership, in which I hit and exceeded my quota 13 years in a row, doing 100 or 250% plus and hit club almost every single year. Now, I made a ton of mistakes in my journey that I want you to avoid. So today, I'm going to share 5 very specific strategies you can start implementing quickly to build fast and deep rapport. And if you stay to the very end, you'll learn one of the biggest mistakes to avoid. Let's dive in. So first, let's actually define what rapport is. This is really important because a lot of times when I hear other sales trainers on YouTube or in some of these books, they're telling you stuff, hey, building some rapport like, how's the weather out there? Hey, I see you're in LA. Oh, did you watch the game last night? Hey, I see you got kids. I have kids too. Or they're trying to find things they see in the background, whether it's on a Zoom or in person, to bring up and start talking about. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to build that type of a rapport, but that is considered very shallow rapport. And your goal is not to make new friends. Your goal is to provide value, be a trusted advisor, and ultimately just make a deal happen, whether it's going to be that day or down the road. But you want to be able to establish it very quickly as the same level as them. So I consider that very shallow rapport. So it's very surface level. It's basically small talk. That's all it is, right? Now, if you sell something very transactional, you sell something low ticket, that might be totally fine. That might be all that you need. But if you sell something more complex, even if it's just low 5 figures and up, right, to multiple 6 figures, 7 figures and plus, or you sell more complex opportunities such as software, you need to be able to develop deep rapport, which is really critical. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to develop that true deep rapport. We want, and also on top of that, we want to develop deep rapport from the very first outreach on to every conversation. So from the very first conversation we have through the entire sales process. And this is really important because sometimes when I hear about people building rapport, they're talking about just the first 30 seconds, which yes, that's important to a certain extent, but it's also way beyond that and before and after that too, which we're talking about today, right? Because ultimately, the deeper the rapport, the greater the trust. And the greater the trust, the faster the sales cycle. And the bigger the deals are, the deeper the rapport must become to be able to actually move the deal quickly. Otherwise, it's going to stall out. So I want to think about even your own life for purchasing decisions, right? Ultimately, when you have really high level rapport and trust with someone, you're going to take action faster. So I'll put a couple examples here. So for example, I have a friend that I trusted very heavily, and he started a watch business a couple years ago. And I told him exactly what watch I personally wanted. He sourced it. And within 2 days, I wired him $20,000 to get the new watch. And that happened very quickly because I trust him and there's rapport and there's respect there. And we already had a level of depth to our relationship. Versus a couple of years ago, I was looking to switch CRMs, all right? And I met with multiple reps. I hate to say it, but none of the reps built deep rapport. All very shallow rapport. We got on a call. Oh, how's it going? Oh, I see you're in Portland. Oh, that's cool. Okay, hey, and they went into their process, right? And unfortunately, that was like for all of them. None of them really stood out. So because of that, I already knew I was gonna make a switch. I thought I'd be a relatively easy sell, if you will, but none of them did a good job with that. So I had to do my own homework, right? And it took me a few months to actually get to the point of deciding which one I wanted. No one was able to develop a deep rapport with me. And the reality is if one of them had done a good job with deep rapport, they probably would have sold me and made a fat commission as a result. Anyways, my point being is this: the deeper and faster you develop rapport and trust with the right stakeholders, the faster your deal will actually move and the more you'll close. Here's a really simple visual here I want to show you. So you can see here, and sorry for my terrible handwriting. I'm handwriting with top. That's why I actually had to present on a Google Doc for this reason. But anyways, you can see on the left side, on this the y-axis as they call it, is rapport trust. It can be low or high. And on the x-axis of the bottom is the sales cycle length, right? So this can be short and long. So the average rep is kind of like this. So everyone starts with basically no trust, if you will, and then it kind of goes like this for the average rep. Now the elite rep understands that it's very different, right? So they understand if they can build a rapport and trust much faster and early on and through the whole process for all the right stakeholders, they can actually increase the deal velocity. So what happens is their rapport and trust build much faster, and they also close much faster too. That's just what ends up happening. And I'm sure you've seen it too, where you probably have met certain people in life where you just trust them more because of how they show up in certain ways versus other people. you get to know them even over time, and you lose trust in them over and over. That's just the reality. My goal to you today is teaching these 5 strategies so you can be the blue line and not the red line. Let's talk about the 5 strategies. First off, this may seem kind of insane, but this is a really key strategy to even developing the proper rapport. Like before you get on the call with them, that's your opportunity to gain a major competitive advantage. So taking the time to do some research beforehand. So for example, you're researching the company and checking out their website. Take a look at their website, see what they're all about. You can take a look at also potentially press releases on their website, their earnings transcripts they might have, their 10K reports, etc. Take a look at customer reviews, testimonials, etc. You can look all around. So not just their website, you can literally Google all around. In today's time, it's literally infinite. And if you buys data and has signals, even better. If you take in consideration all those data points that your company is already providing, plus your own research, and you have a good understanding of the company, all right? How about their social as well? So a lot of companies, especially in today's time, they're trying to leverage social media for social selling, putting their brand out there, so you can see what's most important to them, what they're all about. So for example, if you pay close attention to any brand, you'll see when they're about to make a launch, they have a lot of build up to it, right? Or if they have a big press release, something that they're really excited about, maybe a new partnership or a new opportunity for them or a new product, you'll see they get very excited about certain things. So if you pay close attention to all the social media, you'll learn a lot. This is beyond all the platforms, but also like think about podcasts or interviews, etc. I've had some great conversations with CEOs, mainly because I did my homework in advance, listened to some podcasts they happen to be on, even if it's just 1 or 2, and because I could leverage that in my conversation with them, they're like, wow, this guy actually did his homework. He's not like just any other rep. So this is really important that you take the time to do the research and go deep into what the company's all about. And then also the prospects. So notice here, I'm kind of separating out. There is the company, right, and the company's socials, and then there's also the prospect themselves, the person you're talking to. So in the best case scenario, you're talking to the highest level person, but sometimes you're talking to someone a little bit lower or different levels, right? Or maybe a mid-level manager, or maybe a VP, or maybe same C-suite. Whomever you're meeting with, make sure you take the time to research the prospect. Again, so how long have they been in the company? Prior companies they were at, mutual connections if it's on like LinkedIn, etc. So get to know what they're all about. All right. Check out their social. It's the same as before now, right? With the company, but now the prospect. Check them all out. Same thing with the platform. Were they on podcasts? Were they on anything? And it's amazing in today's time, if they are actively putting themselves out there, wow, you can learn so much about them, especially if they've been on podcasts or whatever they're all about, because you can get really customized in your messaging as a result. But also on top of that, when you're in conversation with them live together, you're able to reference those points, which can be really, really powerful. Taking time to research the org chart and execs, getting really clear on all potential stakeholders are. This is really, really key because let's just say, for example, you could do all of them and teach you today, but you might have someone a little more resistant on the call as well. Maybe they're just more guarded, which happens sometimes. When you actually understand who's as part of the process and you can leverage that information as part of your conversation, that can be really powerful, have them validate who the players are and the order you got to go. Okay. Again, you want to map who the players are and the org and potential decision-making process. Do the same research as above. Okay. So for example, if the other execs, check them out as well. Look them up too. So you can get to know the ins and outs of them, what's important to them. So you have to remember, before you have a live conversation with a prospect, different levels have different objectives and initiatives. But again, at the very end of the day, the very topmost objectives and initiatives, it rolls downhill to sub-objective initiatives as well. So it's important to understand that. You also can prepare by writing on your own point of view. So you want to come to the table, have an idea of how you can potentially bring value and help them, right? Doesn't mean you can go on the call and start pitching with a big pitch deck. I'm not saying that, but you want to come to the table with a point of view, right? And you want to include potential key priorities and initiatives from the highest level, and then, like I just mentioned, you also want to include potential problems and impact as well, all right? And you want to think about how can your solutions not just solve the problem, but align to the highest initiatives in the organization. This is very, very important. So understand how important this is, because now if you actually do this in advance, before you get on the very first call with them, this allows you to take even your questions you ask to ask questions in a way that's going to build deeper trust and rapport. So for example, this is a bad example, which is, hey, what problems do you have with accessing your data making decisions? That's pretty lame, okay? Versus, hey, Bob, I heard on your Q2 earnings call that one of your challenges companies running into is having your data spread across multiple systems and departments due to your rapid growth of the last 4 years. I'm guessing that it makes it hard to get a unified view to make strategic decisions to help scale to the $1 billion org the CEO leases for targeting for 2026. Is that right? So think about how powerful that is, because now it's like, whoa, imagine, you saying this versus someone else saying this. The person that says the one with the check mark next to it shows they did their homework, and now trust is elevated. This shows a higher level of acumen and trust and rapport because of that. So there's a big difference right there, all right? So, and again, you can take this level of research and you can actually bake it into every part of your process, from your intro to the questions getting asked, whatever, right? What also happens too is when you do this level of homework, you can skip asking questions that can be Google, which unfortunately, I hate when people get on discovery calls with me and I'm the prospect and they're asking if they should just Google, because now they're just wasting my time. So I always picture the prospect I'm going to talk to has very limited time. So I don't want to waste much time asking questions I should came to the table already know. So do the same thing. So this allows you now to ask deeper and more insightful questions that make them think. So what happens is when you ask questions that make them think, this elevates your status. So I have found across the board, the smartest, most successful people in the world, it's not the words they say, it's the questions they ask. When they ask an insightful question, I've never thought about it that way. It makes me really think. That's why some of my favorite podcasts are these really successful entrepreneurs, because they're just asking questions I haven't really thought to think before, which is really, really amazing for me. Also, I want you to think about how you prepare your intro for your calls, okay? So most of the time, people have a really long, drawn-out intro all over, like 3 to 5 minutes just to get to the point of how they're going to start the call, versus something that's very tight and succinct based on research. So for example, here's an example I just made right here. Here's a really simple example I just came up with right here. So Alice, thank you so much for your time today. Like I mentioned when we chatted last week, I'm currently working with Bentley Consulting, BHG Enterprise, and the Johnson Group in the consulting space, providing a simple software solution that's helped their sales teams acquire more clients profitably at scale. So what I can do today is just get a good understanding of your business. If it makes sense, then I'll go over our solution and make a few recommendations. And if it all sounds good, we can plan our next steps together. Is that fair? Super simple, very succinct. You get my point. Number 2, visual presentation acumen. So this is a big one for developing rapport. And most people, unfortunately, don't do this at all, which is kind of crazy to me, but it is what it is. So a lot of people underestimate how they're showing up live, whether it's on Zoom call or if they actually meet in person. They're not really taking consideration. Here's the thing. According to Forbes, within the first 7 seconds of meeting people, people will have a solid impression of who you are. And some research suggests 1/10 of a second is all it takes to determine traits like trustworthiness. And remember, if they don't trust you, it stalls everything. This is in your personal life, this is in professional life, this is literally everything. So this must be part of your strategy in developing a really strong rapport with the prospect. So imagine if you sell a $1 million solution, let's say it's a $10 million solution, right? So let's imagine you sell a very high-end solution that costs a lot of money and it's obviously well worth it, but do you look the part of that person selling it? So, for example, do you look the part of that person, or do you look like you roll out of bed? When I go to a high-end dealership like a Porsche or Lamborghini dealership, the way those salespeople are showing up dressed there is drastically different than me going to a Honda dealership. It's wildly different, okay? So you want to be able to be at that same visual presentation level, which is very, very important. So let's discuss how to look the part. So this is whether it's in Zoom or in person. Again, I think what's important for each industry definitely varies. So in certain industries where, let's say they're much more old school, but they expect you to be like a shirt and tie or suit or something, I hate to say it, but if you don't wear one, like if that's what the industry expects, you got to match the industry. That's just a reality, right? So you have to match what the market wants. Now, if the market's like, hey, cool, just wear a nice t-shirt or polo, cool, then do that. That's totally fine. So understand that and be fully aware of who you're going after, which is really, really important. So you want to make sure you match the industry, all right? Now, I want you to imagine every visual detail of you is highly scrutinized. This is from how you dress, from what you wear, right, to how your hair is. So I'm not saying you have to have a certain hairstyle, but does it look the way they expect? So for example, in some industries, they maybe want you to look a little more clean cut, professional, etc., whether you're a male, female, or something else. They want to make sure you look cleaned up. You don't look like you just like woke up out of bed, right? So they want to make sure you look, your head's not all crazy. How about grooming? So, is in your industry, if you're a male, you have a big, awesome beard, that might be totally cool in the industry, Or if it's not, do you need to maybe tighten it up? Again, I know everyone wants to have their own personality, etc., but just you have to be aware the decisions you make when you show up on camera live, people will judge you. And 100% when people are like, yeah, you got to be yourself and do that. Totally get that. But at the end of the day, I would not want to sacrifice not being able to help other people because I decide to not take care of myself that day, if that makes sense. If they see in person, your shoes, are your shoes taken care of? If your notes in front of them as well? So it's even small stuff. I hate to say it, but I've been in sales meetings in person where the salesperson pulls out their laptop and they're selling like a very expensive solution. They pull a laptop out, and I look, and it's like completely beat up. Like, I can tell they dropped it. There's like coffee stains on it. The keyboard's all sticky. They got all these like stickers on there. I hate to say it, but if I'm gonna spend like $1 million on a solution, I'm like, whoa, this is like, this person, are they gonna be on their game? And again, this might be a completely inaccurate judgment, but I'm just sharing with you, when people see certain things, they'll judge other people. Right? Even in your own life, when you see people do a certain thing, and you might be like, oh, I don't judge people, but I'm sure there are certain people that when you see them, they wear a certain thing, they do a certain thing, they do a certain activity, they have a certain haircut, whatever, you kind of prejudge them a little bit, right? That's just a reality. So there's a reason why when you go see a doctor, you have a certain expectation of how they look. But if they look like they're kind of crazy and out there and they're wearing dirty old clothes, whatever, like you're probably like, ugh, I don't know if I trust this doctor. That's just human nature. That's all it is, right? So again, how do you visually look, right? If you have a briefcase or bag, how does it look too? Is it beat up and old and disgusting and dirty? Is it clean, organized, professional, right? If you have a portfolio you pull out, how does it actually look? I've seen it where I'm sitting down with another rep and they pull out their portfolio and like papers are falling out everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I place an order with them, they're probably gonna mess my order up. It's prejudgment pretty quickly, but I share this with you because if you're not aware of this, you are 100% getting judged for this. In the perfect world, we wish everyone's open-minded, but they're not. Everyone's got their own biases. This is really important, okay? To binders they pull out, you get my point. Ultimately, your visual representation from head to toe, does it align to what they expect of someone who's a trusted advisor? This is really, really important, okay? And then even Zoom calls, if you're on Zoom calls, like turn on your camera. Turn the camera on. Being able to see your face, see your eyes, see your hands, see how you move, builds trust much faster than not having it on. And it's kind of crazy because I'll review Zoom calls and I'll see literally salespeople just not turn the camera on. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you can build trust very quickly by turning the camera on, okay? Dress the part as well. So the cool part is obviously if you use Zoom, like you could be in shorts, you could not be wearing pants. As long as whatever's in camera view looks proper and meets the industry look, you're totally fine. So that's totally cool too. How about the background? There's a background clean and visible. It's not to say, so some people have like the fake digital backgrounds that you can just upload to Zoom. Those are fine. But I found if you want to build trust and rapport, the more transparent you can make things, the more people are just going to trust you as a byproduct. So for example, you can see behind my office right here, you can see like what things look like. It's all designed for a reason, intentionally. Now, some people blur the background, which is totally fine, but I'll tell you, blurring the background is far better than having a fake background or having your camera up. So if you show your background, like you want to make sure, obviously, it looks the part to the way you want to impress upon other people, right? So think about what's visible. Does it lend credibility and trust to you? So not enough people think about this, so they don't really think wherever I just turn on a blurred background, but you can also incorporate things that can help build trust for you. So what you see right now in the camera lens, even as of right now, is by intentional design, right? So, for example, here, if I was to expand my camera out, which I'll show you really quick, so you can see more now. So you can see behind me, I have like naturally when people see books, it does lend a little more credibility. That's one of the realities. But on top of that, if people were to like zoom in on the background and look at all the trophies, they'll see tons of President's Club trophies and other awards I've won, which again, lends credibility because what I offer for my company is sales coaching and training, but also showing, hey, listen, like I literally did the job for years and had success doing it. That's really, really important. And then also the business owners, etc. So those other things behind me, such as my Wall Street Journal best-selling book, my ClickFunnels doing $1 million in 18 months. So there's different things behind me, all designed in a certain way, because I want to make sure when people jump on camera with me or jump on a Zoom call with me, they're able to have a controlled environment of what they see. Now, I just know that it probably keeps me more neutral. It helps me versus actually hurting me. So having that good background is very, very important. But on top of that, I'm sure you have way more personality than me and you're more interesting than I am. But if your background has a really interesting, cool things in the back, that also lends us a natural kind of conversation point as well. Now, that's going to be probably more of the shallow rapport. But when they see something interesting in the back, they're like, oh, that's really, really, really neat. So for example, I've had people look in the back like, oh, wow, did you write a book if they didn't know? Or they'll say, oh, wow, I'm a big book guy too. What book have you read? And naturally, again, it's a shallow rapport, but now we're bonding over something because of something they saw that might be interesting to them as well. And that can be really cool. I can't tell you a number of times where if they see something in the background, or if I see maybe they have a bookshelf and we start talking about books, I make a little note of maybe a book I maybe mentioned they haven't read before, and that's really powerful to be sending them later to really stand out. So you just want to be really clear what's in your visual background, because again, this will help you build trust and rapport. So, once your camera's on, boom, how does it actually look? You also want to think lighting. So bright lighting minimizes shadows. So you can see, even as with me filming this, I have a big box light right here. Let me turn it off so you can see the difference real quick. So you can see now, it looks obviously very, very different. I would say it doesn't look terrible, but it's not necessarily great. I'm in Oregon, so sometimes it's really, really cloudy. It rains a lot, so it can get worse. So that's why it's really important that you have good lighting as well. That's why I've invested in other lights too, especially when I'm filming videos or when I'm on Zoom calls. Let me turn it back on. Also, think about the audio and visual quality. Now, you don't need to have like a high-end mic. This is like because, I'm on podcasts, I do group training, do live trainings, and, this is for my business. You don't necessarily need that, but you do want to have a decent mic that you're talking into. And generally speaking, I find the laptop mics aren't really great. So it's better if you even have plug-in headsets. Those are pretty decent as well. So having good audio quality when you speak into is going to be really important because it helps them understand you better as well. And then also the camera too. So notice the camera here, like you don't have to have this. This is a super high-end camera, but just making sure that you have a decent camera to go through is nice. Now, a lot of the newer laptops now have decent cameras. And as long as you have good lighting, it could just make the world of difference. So just having good light could really solve the big problem for even cameras too. Also, something to think about too, depending on how you take notes. So if you notice here, I'm looking right into the camera right here. So this is considered eye level. But for a lot of people that are using laptops, because they're on like a desk, on a flat on a desk, it's lower, right? So what happens is they're actually looking down the camera. So you see more of an under chin type of view for the camera. So it's kind of like this. And I'm sure you've seen it as well, where they're kind of crouching down like this. So just be aware of that. Some people just simply stack their laptop on books, right? And this way it's more eye level. And this way they also have another keyboard separate they can kind of type on. There's many ways to kind of solve, but my point is just be aware visually when you get on the camera, how's it look? Once the camera's on, once Zoom or Microsoft Teams on, whatever platform you use is on, they're like, boom, they can see you can see them, it's crisp and clear, and attention is right here. And you want to be able to portray the image of someone who can really help them and have high value. Now, these might seem like minute details, but I'm telling you, all of these details do matter because ultimately, if you can do all these things and show up immediately at the top of the game once the camera's on, you're already ahead of majority of salespeople out there who are not thinking this way. And ultimately, you want to give them zero reason to not trust you from a visual perspective. That's just the reality. Number 3, ICP and industry acumen. So this one's really, really important. Okay, so you've done a great job now, let's say, preparing and showing up visually. We want to go even deeper now because this will help you build rapport really fast. And it's having a very strong acumen in knowing your ICP, your ideal customer profile in your industry. It's literally researching to know them inside and out. So this, unfortunately, is not something you can just do 5 minutes before a call and hopefully know them inside and out. But you need to start doing this in advance and fast as possible. This is actually why I recommend if you start a new job, the first thing you want to do is just do this piece because this will help you just better understand the pains and problems of your prospects. So as a baseline, you can use Dan Candy's smart market diagnosis questions. And these are really good questions to really ask yourself as you do your homework to research your ICP in the industry. So for example here, what keeps them awake at night? Indigestion boiling up to the esophagus, eyes of the ceiling. So this is powerful because this is like, what are their biggest worries and pains and fears? This is really, really important, okay? What are they afraid of? What are they angry at? Who are they angry at? What are the top 3 daily frustrations? What are trends occurring will occur in their business and lives? What do they secretly, ardently desire the most? Is there a built-in bias in the way they make decisions? So for example, CFOs are highly analytical numbers based, right? Do they have their own language? This is very important, very important. Do they have their own language? Who is selling them something similar to their product and service? How? Who else has tried to sell them something similar? How's that effort failed them? And again, there's many types of questions you can ask yourself when you're trying to understand and internalize your ICP. But ultimately, you want to be able to fill out something like this. This is a document I provide for my clients here, but I have them fill it out so this way they can kind of break down really the ins and outs of their ICP. This is really important, right? Doing the research on like case studies, testimonials, review sites. It could be Reddit, it could be Slack communities, podcasts, books, magazines, conferences, webinars, anywhere and everywhere to basically get to them inside. You want to know them better than they know themselves. This is really, really powerful because when you do, you're able to have a deeper and richer conversation with them. You can use their own lingo and words. And the better you do that, the stronger the rapport is going to be, right? Just like my prior example in which I shared, like I built some context around even asking questions. This is something you can incorporate at literally from the discovery call to the demo to everything else, which shows you actually get them and you understand their problem. And let me give you a really specific example of a personal example. So my kid just got into a new school, so we're really excited about this. And we go to the new student, new parent orientation night. So it's a bunch of new parents, new students. And what's interesting is I thought maybe the common bond would be obviously we're all going to go to new school. It's kind of cool, right? So that's interesting. But I remember there's a very specific family, the Glass family. We first saw kind of the normal kind of surface level rapport. They're actually from LA area. They're actually moving up. And, and I just happened to have been in LA the prior week, because we go to Long Beach for this very specific food allergy institute, which is in Long Beach, to treat my kids like 40 plus food allergy, environmental allergies. And the mother was like, oh, amazing. We've actually been there. In fact, I was in that program. My kid was in that program as well. Actually, both kids are in the program. One's already graduated and they're completely allergy free, and the other one is in the program right now. And we're like, what? And we start talking, and it turns out, yeah, they're in the exact same program that we're currently in right now, which is very rare because it's like not that many people know about this program. So we start talking. We have specific language and lingo. We're talking. We're like talking about this, what we're doing and where we are in the journey. And like immediately, it was like the door opened wide open for our relationship. And now, of course, out of all the people we met, a lot of families, that Glass family is one we felt very deeply connected with. And with our rapport is very, very strong. Now, obviously, we're not selling anything to each other. But my point to you is, from a human nature perspective, when you have a very similar lingo, language, and you feel like you guys understand each other at a very deep level, rapport naturally builds. This is just very, very powerful. So in the sales context, this is why you want to take the time to do the homework, like I mentioned here so far, from step number 1 to this step right here, because this allows you to cut through the noise much faster, because most people are unwilling to do the actual deep work. Number 4, executive and business acumen. So sales can feel like an uphill battle, and pull this up from Forrester, but salespeople from vendors are the least trusted group we track, 29%, followed by social media influencers and national media. I think it's the most hilarious stat. Literally, people that are on TikTok, on LinkedIn, whatever, people trust those people more than salespeople, which is crazy. Anyways, the reality is, when we get a chance to be in front of the prospect, we have to nail it with all the prior stuff I mentioned, right? Now, another really powerful way to build strong rapport and trust is having really strong executive and business acumen. It may not be clear what it is, so let me share what I've experienced myself as a buyer. And these are examples of very poor business acumen. So for example, showing up late. It's crazy how many times I've seen people show up late and I'm the prospect. It's super crazy. Or if I'm in the field with another rep and we're going to go to meetings and they're late, it's like crazy to me. Or show up unprepared, not doing any of the homework I mentioned, not knowing how the call is going to go. It's crazy. Or they're all over the place on the call with no clear agenda. Poor emotional intelligence, not able to read the situation and adapt and adjust it based off how the situation is going to be. Not following through the promises. It's kind of crazy how, even as me, as saying, I'm going to spend money with your company down the road, but I need you to send me these things, how sometimes I'll need to fall multiple times just to get one single thing, which is crazy to me, right? So this is obviously poor business acumen, okay? Poor communication. So just hard, not responsive, or the communication is bad, tons of errors in proposals, emails, etc., lack of attention to detail, showing up sloppy, not understanding how the solution ties to the bigger picture of the CEO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't get a point. So those all show poor acumen. And the truth is, I think for a lot of people when they first get into sales, if they start at a very low level sales job, and it's probably very transactional, they can usually kind of get away, kind of being gritty and not really having good acumen, just kind of grinding hard, making it work. But over time, as you start to sell more complex opportunities, or you sell into more complex companies or bigger companies, there's a level of professionalism and acumen you have to have from everything that you do. So what's the strong business acumen? It's literally the opposite, right? So for example, it's like you show up early. You show up prepared. You come to call very well prepared, like I mentioned, and you have a very clear agenda. You have very high emotional intelligence. You follow through your promises. If you can't follow through, you commit the right commitment. So for example, I've had sales calls with people and they'll say, hey, Marcus, I'm going to send this to you by the end of the day. And the day comes, they don't send it. And then 2 days later, I finally get it, which is crazy to me, right? Versus if they were busy, which is totally fine, they say, hey, listen, I'm pretty tired for the rest of today and tomorrow's completely booked, but I will get to you by Thursday at the very latest. Very different. Now the expectation is very different, right? Because they're just simply keeping their word. Not communicating, right? Tons of errors in proposals, emails, etc. Lack of attention to detail, showing up sloppy. You want the opposite of all these, right? Even from a personal perspective, I was looking to get some life insurance. And I was taking a look, and I'm like, okay, like I can either get through my existing insurance agent, he's super nails. He's got incredible acumen. He's super nails. But I was like, well, I don't know if I want all my eggs in one basket. And I'm like, maybe I'll get life insurance through another company. So I reached out to a few companies, and I'm talking to this one other financial advisor, which is a salesperson. And it's amazing how they're late. They're not really prepared. They're literally all over the place. All over the place, right? They're making promises to me and they're not following through. And like literally, I'm like constantly following up. Hey, where are we at with this? Then they're sending me over quotes that are like wrong. Hey, this is not what I asked for. This I actually asked for this instead. Then I'm like, okay, you give me 3 different quotes for 3 different things. Like I can't even understand how you sent it to me. Can you put it in a very simple table so I can actually understand it better? Like, he's like, and then again, when he sends it over, it's all messed up. I can't even understand what it is. It's like, oh man, this guy's just sloppy. So I'm like, okay, this guy not only he actually costs more. But I'm like, why am I going to go with this guy versus my guy who's actually on top of my game? Like, if I was to pass away, I need to make sure this stuff is super nails. I can't have messed up insurance. So am I going to trust sloppy guy or am I just do super nails? So I ended up going with my guy, right? So it is what it is. So my point is that acumen made a huge difference in the whole process. But on top of that, it also means being a better business professional. This is big. This is where a lot of salespeople miss the boat because, they might know the product inside out, but then they're lacking actually understanding how a business works. So you want to become a better business professional by actually studying business as well. That could be reading business books, listening to business podcasts. This could be investing in mentors and coaches. This could be attending conferences. This could be doing stretch assignments at other non-sales departments to learn. This could be inviting yourself to other non-company meetings. So I'll give you a really, really simple example. In 2011, I changed a whole new company. I know sales, but I don't know this industry at all. And early on, they put me through the typical training. But what I also want to understand, I want to understand the operational side of the business. I want to understand CS. I want to understand the ops part of the business. I want to understand how everything is all interconnected. And I remember one of them, because they had these service reps that would have this weekly meeting in the morning. It was really early. It was like 5:30 every Wednesday. Most salespeople would not show up to that meeting. But I knew in there, they would talk about all the KPIs in the CS department was most important for them. So what did I do? I went to every single Wednesday meeting. And I just invited myself and I listened in, and it was really, really insightful because I was like, wow, I'm learning so much now, which can actually help me and actually make me a better sales professional, because now when I'm on sales conversations, I could talk about even our back end at a whole new level if I needed to. But on top of that, it built a lot of faith inside me in terms of knowing that I was backed up by a whole team. I was knew whatever it took to take care of the customer, which is actually really powerful for me. So my point is, if you do all the above, this increases your business acumen and that compounds trust and rapport. Let me give you another example. I remember I had this opportunity, and I think we had 5 or 6 different stakeholders in it, about $1 million opportunity. They had this existing incumbent they had been with for probably over 10 years, and they renewed every 3 to 5 years with them. So I knew it was really, really competitive. So I'm working with them. I'm bringing my stakeholder, my internal exec team in. We're meeting with them. I'm managing all the stakeholders. I have crazy attention to detail. I'm following up. I'm working this deal, and we end up losing the deal still, right? I honestly was not happy with that. And what was interesting was, I remember even when I lost that deal, I remember talking to the CEO, and he's like, hey, listen, I just want to say, you did a really great job. I was really, really impressed. He tried to recruit me, actually. He's like, would you want to come work for me? But I was very impressed with how you just kind of ran everything, how you just brought us all together. You control the product. You did a really excellent job. At the end of the day, they just gave us a crazy low price that, we just couldn't turn down. I tried to coach against it from the prior, but he's like, it's too late, man. I've already signed the agreement. And I'm like, it is what it is. However, here's the thing. I could have just been like, all right, thank you so much for that feedback. Nice, it's great talking with you. See you later. Hope for the best. But because I knew it was a pretty big opportunity, I'm like, wow, you know what? This is a good opportunity. I'm going to keep in touch with this guy. So for the next 3 years, every few months, I would reach out and have us be very professional, provide value, and nurture him. And fast forward 3 years later, probably about 2 years later, we started to open up conversations again because they had a 3-year contract. And we ended up closing that deal, and it ended up being a bigger deal as a result. And a big part, he's like, listen, now you just show me over time, you guys truly valued a partnership. You were the most consistent out of everyone. You didn't just show up when we were about to renew. You've shown us from the very get-go your level of acumen. We want to partner with someone like that. We value that so much because that's something we value in our company. So I share that with you because he saw this level of acumen that was far beyond what everyone else was doing because I wasn't like every other rep. I wanted to be different. So I share that with you because having great acumen can also be a major competitive advantage for you in the marketplace. All right, number 5. This is the last one. This is sales acumen. So we've discussed now 4 key strategies to build rapport and trust. So number 1, research and prep. Number 2, visual presentation acumen. Number 3, ICP and industry acumen. And number 4, executive business acumen. So this is the 5th and final one. This is a big one. This is your level of sales acumen. So meaning, are you running a specific buyer-centric sales process? And the truth is, most people are simply not doing that. And most of us can't get in sales, like me, and you just work really hard. And that's exactly what I did. I worked really, really hard, and I was definitely far more transactional, and I didn't really have a clear method for success. So I was playing the numbers game because I was told that's how you had to be successful in sales. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. And the truth is, when you play the numbers game, the prospect feels it too. It actually breaks rapport. So most people don't have a clear methodology that they run. So that's why even when you ask like top performers, like, hey, what are you doing exactly? Most of them are like, you just got to work harder and be patient, which is pretty useless, especially if you want to actually hit your number and actually make money. So this is where you get really susceptible, right, to doing things like high pressure closes, or you get stuck in the doing month end or quarter end or year end discounts, a whole kind of push for close, which again, that breaks rapport too, because now it's like, oh, okay, if you knew you can give a discount, why didn't you tell me that to begin with, right? So that's why it's really key as part of building your sales acumen is you actually find a sales methodology that is customer centric, because when you actually do that, you'll close bigger deals and at a far faster rate. That's what ends up happening. So that's actually why I created the powerful sales methodology that closes at over 40% plus consistently for my clients and for me. Because you're uncovering 8 very specific things, it shows now as a byproduct of it, very high level sales and business acumen, which establishes you as a trusted advisor and puts you in the top 1% of actual sales people. So ultimately, rapport and trust build rapidly because of the process, which leads to higher close rates and shorter sales cycle. So if you want to develop strong rapport, you want to make sure you develop your sales acumen. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do what I teach, right? But you need something that focuses on the customer and not on your product like everybody else. So there you have it. That's 5 key strategies to build rapport. That's beyond just a small talk. And if you want our help to help train and coach you on your sales acumen, help you close a 40% plus, book a call with my team below. And if you want to see the exact framework, right, they break down my powerful sales methodology, click on the video on the screen to watch it next. See you in the next video.